Talking about preparing for things, we are well prepared for this man who has very quietly, very smoothly walked into the studio, sat down, and is ready for the next hour with our good selves here live on talkSPORT. It is Chris Eubank Sr., who, as usual, has not disappointed us in the sartorial stakes. Mr. Eubank Sr., you look great. Welcome.
That's very kind of you. Thank you. Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Thank you. Likewise. Yes.
There's a lot to get through. One thing I want to ask you is how proud you must feel that your family name is still going strong in the ring with Chris Jr.
I can't comment on that. I can't.
Why?
Well, in boxing terms, he lost to a fellow called Mr. Smith. And, you know, that wasn't on my watch. So I'm not going to say anything about that other than on my watch, you saw performances against Yildirim. You saw the one performance against Nick Blackwell for the British title. Electrifying. But since he wrote me that letter that said, I'm now the boss, it was just then where, in fact, I saw a clip of him saying, my dad's gone missing. Well, I went missing when you said, I'm the boss.
But wouldn't you want that for him, Chris? I mean, you're your own man. You're very serene at this moment in time, and perhaps that's your characteristic full stop. But wouldn't you want that for your son, for him to be his own man, to make his own, plough his own trough, to choose his own direction?
You can't be your own man in boxing if you're being led by...
You were, weren't you?
But I was obedient to those who were guiding me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your trainer.
No. My trainer was Ronnie Davis.
I know who he was, yeah.
Wonderful trainer.
Yeah.
Because he left me alone.
Right.
Yeah. And I paid him very well. And I took him everywhere with me. And I've always given him the plaudits of which he deserves, which is leave me to do what I do in the gym. I will tell the world that you're my trainer. And he was, because he kept me happy. He sung me songs. He sung me Danny Boy. He sung songs. He sung hymns. He told me jokes.
But you sound unhappy because the question
unhappy?
The question was about the scenario of Chris Eubank Jr. for this particular conversation, the legacy of your name.
Yeah.
And the answer was, I can't answer that. Because one would have assumed, and it's wrong to assume, but one would assume that you, achieving the things that you've achieved, and seeing your son, in this instance specifically Chris, let's talk about Chris for this moment in time, going in, achieving relatively significant heights, albeit I don't think he's achieved the heights he could have done, and we can perhaps talk about that in a second. But it doesn't feel like you have that feeling of, my name has been maintained, the value of what I achieved is being carried forward. It seems as if you're slightly challenged by it.
Yes, I am challenged. When my son wrote me a letter telling me he was the boss, so then I left, and I had worked 10 years with him, and all of those years, you know, it doesn't seem as
Do you not understand his point of view, though? Because did you have a Chris Eubank Sr. in your world that was so prevalent in the media's eyes, that was so important and so all-consuming? Did you have that? Because he has that in you, doesn't he?
How do I put this?
Chris Eubank Sr.'s son.
Yeah, you see...
That legacy.
Yeah, but, you know... Okay, in boxing language, you're only as good as your last fight.
Yep.
Okay, so don't speak to me about... No, that's... And again, it wasn't my watch. He said he's his own boss and he got his own trainers in. And so he called in Roy Jones and he called in a fellow from Vegas.
And you don't agree with this?
How can I agree with it when I know the people he's involved with? He's surrounded by
opportunists?
That's too polite. And I can't find the word.
Leeches, parasites?
Most certainly, but that's not what I want to say. He's surrounded by people who are actually backwards.
Right.
You know, I go forwards. You know, that's why I say on my watch, you saw performances, that Yildirim performance. Proud of that. That was my watch. The fight against Nick Blackwell, you will not find, you can't even compare another fighter with that performance. That performance was electrifying. Electrifying. And I'll tell you what, this is something of which you can check out for yourself. What drove him to actually eviscerate Nick like he did was these two fighters, Tyson Fury and this other name of which is quite unspeakable for me. And they were goading, you know, coming into the change room beforehand and shouting things at ringside and really, you know, pumping up Nick.
Right.
And all it did, it made Junior
Emboldened.
just bold. It wasn't just bold without backup. He backed it up. And those punches were I've not seen a performance like it.
But without your guidance, Chris, and without you around, do you feel he fought the wrong fight against Liam Smith?
Look, when a person gets stopped like that, you're talking to an insider. I'm not an outsider, you know. You are spectators. The public are spectators. I'm working from the inside. I see from the inside. When a person gets up like that and then staggers forward, that's a person who's been, as my father said to me, no man can come off of a woman's stomach and then go and win fights. When a person gets up and staggers like that, you haven't been trained.
But Chris, I've got to
Right.
be honest with you, Chris.
Yes.
And I've had issues with Chris Eubank Jr. and said things to him, and whatever I've said about him, I've said to him about his achievements. Whenever I saw you involved with your son, I thought of you, and it seemed to be more about you, and it felt the focus was on you, and the legacy of you, and that must be challenging for your son.
I told him I told him at 12 years old, don't get involved with this game. He can't do what I do. I speak, and I speak kindness. I speak honor. I speak dignity. I speak consideration. You know, Junior is. I remember him saying on this Piers Morgan show, my dad wanted to be the opposite of what the meatheads are in boxing. That's my son's words. What my son doesn't, or what I want to say is, I didn't want to be the opposite. I am the opposite. I'm not what he's surrounded with or what he is. I don't look for the bling.
Isn't he a product of his time, Chris? Isn't he a product of his time in a different world to the one that you lived in?
That may be so, but he has a daddy, and that daddy doesn't go along with that nonsense. Because nonsense is what it is.
Chris, can I ask you before we get to the break, you're so hurt by this letter that Chris Jr. sent you?
No, I am grateful. Let me tell you what, I would have had to stay there. I would have had to stay there and suffer the indignity of being around. You know, here's a person, my son, making me the third man, fourth man.
Yeah, you weren't having that. You would not have been
No,
happy with
I
that.
had to have it.
You had to have it. Yeah.
Because he's my son, and so there's nothing I can do. I can't get out of it unless you write me a letter. And that letter said, now I'm the boss. Things are done my way, which he had been actually doing effectively anyway.
But you don't want that for him. You think it's wrong for him. But he's his own. I mean, again,
hold
it's
on,
your
hold
son.
on, hold on. This
it
is
feels
boxing.
wrong, Chris. It feels wrong.
Hold on. This is boxing. Boxing is not like any other vocation on earth.
I accept that.
Well, if you accept it, then understand what you're dealing with. You're dealing with people who are using you.
Yep.
Using you. They're using your name. They're speaking for you, and they're putting you in fights
that are not right for you.
Can you imagine Junior walking around at 171?
Yeah.
Okay, so he has to get down to 160, fine for a world championship fight. Hold on. But then to boil him down to 157.
Yeah, he's wrong.
Hold on.
It's wrong. Yeah.
That is attempted murder. I said it
Yeah,
before.
I heard you say that.
You
But
said
isn't
it
it? But
twice.
he's,
And
but
hold
he's a
on,
big
and
boy.
hold
He's
on.
a grown man, Chris.
He's a grown man?
He's
No,
30.
he's my son.
Sure,
He's
but-
my boy. He's my child.
Yeah.
He will always be my child.
Yeah, understood
Do you
that.
understand? Even though he's a man, and I
Yeah.
give him his respect, because it's almost impossible to do what he's done. I respect his kahunas so much
But
to
not
be
his
able
choices.
to follow in my
But
footsteps.
no, absolutely.
That
Can
is-
you imagine
that
how
is
difficult that
mad.
must be for him?
But what can I do? I told him not to get involved in boxing. It's not what you think it's about.
No, it's a
Boxing,
difficult,
boxing.
brutal sport.
Hold on. Brutal? Okay. Yeah. When you feel you're being murdered in that ring, and I've been in this situation, you feel you've been murdered. You have the
Visceral reaction to it.
No, hold on. You have the wherewithal to quit and say, well, I've had enough. But you can't, because the Warriors Code doesn't allow. You see, this is not a sport. It's not singing. It's not acting. This is real.
Yeah.
These punches are actually,
Yes, yeah.
they're breaking you down, and they're killing you. And
Well,
I've been in
well-
these. Hold on, I've been in these fights. So
And I've watched you.
so when you say, let him be his own man, how can I let him be his own man when you can't be a man in this unless you've got someone directing you who's been there, who's felt it, who's tasted it? These physical education teachers haven't felt it. They don't know. It's just money for them.
Okay. Chris, we're going to take a quick break. I don't know if you remember, it was actually me that you spoke to about what your interpretation was of what they were trying to do to Chris Jr. in terms of the weight change to prepare for the Conor Benn fight, which never happened. We'll touch on that next. I'm also keen to find out what the nature of the relationship with Chris Jr. is like now. And we've been talking about Chris's son, Chris Jr., who, of course, lost in recent times to Liam Smith. And, of course, there was a huge amount of controversy around the fight that didn't happen against Conor Benn. And Chris was hugely offended by the fact that Chris had to endure such a weight change to go in with Benn that you thought it was well nigh attempted murder on the part of others.
Well, let me put this to you. I did an interview with Nigel Benn about our tour. While the interview was going on, Conor walked into the room. So he walked onto camera. And I said, listen, Conor, I mean, what's going on with Krista? I mean, him coming down to 157, that doesn't even make any sense. Please don't do this. Now, this exists, this tape, this conversation.
What did he say?
He said, I don't know about that. I said I'd fight him at any weight. I said I'd fight him at 160. That's what Conor said. So who engineered the 157? I'll tell you who engineered it. The handlers, the promoters, because they have something against, whether it's Junior or it's me, I don't know. But who engineered that? That person should be outed. And let me tell you something about Conor, which no one has actually brought up, which I don't understand why they haven't brought it up. Conor went on to a show called the Piers Morgan Show. That's walking into the light. When you walk into the light, that shows a man to be honest, not dishonest.
What you said was misguided, though.
Hold on. You may say it's misguided. I say to you this. Where was his team? Everyone's hiding. He's the only one who came out and say, hold on a minute. And listen to his words. He said, I don't know what happened. Bamboozled. It's like, I don't know what happened. Let me tell you what, when someone is guilty of something, there's no way they walk into the light and talk about it. And the light of Piers Morgan, that proves his innocence to me. Now, who are his team? And how comes there's one person actually going down? He has a team. Someone would have had to administer these drugs or steroids. Who are these people? Now, the only people I know next to him is a former fighter and his promoter. So they have to be looked into. The Boxing Board of Control should look into them. And let me tell you this. You think prison is a confined space and you can't get in and you can't get out. Let me tell you what. When Nigel Benn finds out what they've done to his son, prison will not even be safe for the guys.
But you're bringing
Okay.
Tony Sims and Eddie Hearn into the conversation.
I didn't mention their names.
But that's the promoters and those
Yeah.
are the
Yeah,
people.
hold on. I didn't.
I mean, Chris,
I
those
didn't-
involved would deny any wrongdoing.
hold on.
Of course
hold
they
on,
would.
Hold on. They would they? So why don't they? But no one has anyone put them in front of the. Listen, Conor is a clean fighter. He doesn't know what happened to him. All the fighters know. I remember one day. There's a video of me. I think it was the Spike O'Sullivan fight where I had been in America. I came back. I think on the day I came from the airport, I came in. I had this coat on. They were playing some music. I was dancing. Okay.
It did look a bit odd, Chris. Though
Hold on.
it did look a bit odd, mate.
Listen, an entertainer is an entertainer, and there's nothing.
But that looks odd.
Nothing I can do
that
about
was
that.
odd entertainment.
Hold on.
So when you're
You
talking
you
about
know,
Conor Benn,
yes.
let's move off this situation
Yes,
and move on to the
yes,
Conor Benn situation.
yes.
Given the fact that Conor has the obligation of strict liability, you know it and I know it. But whatever's in his system, he's got to explain it. Whoever's put it there maybe have to be accountable in the longer game. But what's your reaction to the fact that Conor would have been going into a ring with artificial support to fight your son in a fight that you didn't want him to be in the first place because he's been boiled down to 157? What do you think should happen to Conor now?
Whatever happens to Conor has to happen to his promoter
That's not
and
the que-
his trainers.
That's not the question I asked you.
What's the question? Okay.
What should happen to Conor? If there's collateral
Whatever
damage,
whatever
should
happens,
he be banned?
Whatever happens to him, if he should be banned, then
Or
he
do you
has a
think
team.
he should? Come on,
He
Chris.
could not have administered this to himself.
Do you agree with the principle of strict liability then, which is whatever goes into an athlete's body, which is
Yes.
what the British Boxing Board of Control and UKAD's governance is, whatever goes in your body, right, you've got to account for. However it got there, you've got to give a reason for it, right?
Right.
And if you can't, then you're caught, and that's the governance of the sport.
Okay.
Do you agree with that principle?
Yes, but there's
Then
an
he has to be
additive.
banned, doesn't he?
Hold on. If he's to be banned, then the promoter and the team
And
around him has
I
to be
agree.
banned.
There should be a consequence for everybody. I agree.
And that's all I'm saying.
I agree.
Okay,
I agree.
Personally, I don't think he's guilty. Like my son, having that, whatever was being put into his knuckle to apparently heal his knuckle.
Yeah.
Whatever was.
Well, Conor's maintained his innocence.
Hold on. Trust. You know, these young men trust these teams around them.
Yes.
Yeah, we
and
understand the point,
yeah.
I'm saying to
And the
these young
uniqueness
men,
of that trust,
and
I
I'm saying
understand
to
it.
these young men, like my son, you do not trust them. Now, let me tell you this.
Yeah.
Before he fought this Mr. Smith,
Yeah.
I sent him a message. I said, the only thing that is important to you now is to put Ronnie Davis
Yeah.
on this one thing, which is what you drink. The water, everything to do with your intake, let Ronnie be only there to actually look after that, because I know what these people are.
Why did he lose to Liam Smith? Why do you think he lost to Liam
When
Smith?
someone staggers like that, it means they've been looking at bling. They've been looking at money. They've been looking at girls. They've
Not preparing.
Yeah, they think it's easy.
Yeah.
And when you think it's easy, even a fighter of his caliber can beat you and look good doing it.
But he's a world-class operator, Liam Smith, as well, though, isn't he?
Sorry, I come from a world of bigotry and racism. Okay, in
what's
the
that got to do with
1990s, it wasn't. In the 1990s, they wouldn't have allowed me to fight a man like Liam Smith.
Why is that then? You fought lots of fighters. You fought. I went and watched you fight Dan Sherry. And what's the point?
The point is the caliber of the fighters he's fighting,
Yeah.
or the caliber. When fighters are being trained by who I call physical education teachers, they're not learning how to fight.
But Roy Jones Jr.
Roy Jones Jr. Okay, Roy Jones Jr. This is the credit I give him. Okay, he taught my son patience, but my son, it seems to me, hasn't used it. You're supposed to combine the patience with that speed and that crack in your punches. And
Can he beat him now? Can Chris? Because I don't think you can. Can Chris come back, your son, and avenge the defeat? I was at the fight, and I watched it, and I picked Liam Smith to beat him, and I picked him to beat him again. You're his dad. You know him. He's now got serious, or might be getting serious, because he perhaps didn't prepare this fight properly. He's got the same people around him that you think are no good for him. Can he win this fight?
David Hay called me the other day and said he doesn't spar. He does everything that he wants to do. He's got yes men around him. And so it seems to me, by what David Hay said to me, that he's still not listening. And so,
Right.
I don't know, because I don't watch anymore, because I have do you know what it is to give 10 years of your life? The concentration. I've got to get him money. I've got to get I've got to bring his name up. You think it was easy? 8 years I suffered the.
But why is it you, Chris? It's him. It's his life. Why is it again?
Because
I keep hearing you in the conversation.
Because without me, you can't make the money that he's made.
I agree with that.
There were 3 fights he
and
had.
same for Conor as well. Then
There were 3 fights he had. Now this will actually shock a lot of these fighters because I know what they're being paid, or I have a feeling of what they're being paid. Okay, 3 fights with fighters who were like Yildirim. Okay, $9 million. $9 million. I got him that. Mm-hmm. He can't make that money without someone like me. They're paying these guys £60,000 a fight. Let me tell you something, okay? What's going on is a disgrace. It's a racket. It's a racketeering. Surely you know that. Now,
I don't think it's great. I agree with you.
Hold on.
Be specific, Chris.
Be
What in terms of racketeering, what's racketeering? What's going on?
Conor said it beautifully on Piers Morgan. I don't know what happened. He's the only one who doesn't know. Everyone else knows. Everybody else in his team knows what's happened. He doesn't know what's happened because he is the mark.
It's an interesting one, Jim.
I've been in this situation.
It's a very unique perspective Chris is giving, because what he's basically saying is the relationship is very different between. It's like having a football coach. Different. When these fighters go into a ring, it's a different relationship. And I understand more of his point than I did at the beginning of the conversation about the nature of why people would be also complicit in outcomes.
Look, these guys are making, how do you pay a trainer 10% or 5% when, what do you know if you've only had no fights, if you've had 5 fights, if you've only been an amateur? How can you be paid 10% of a fighter's money?
What would Chris be saying, listeners? Would he be saying,
I'll
tell you what he'll be saying.
For Christ's sakes, Dad.
I'll tell you what he'll be saying. Well, he's always right. Or he always thinks he's right.
Right.
And for boxing, again, I am protecting my son. With what? With 52 fights, 24 world championship fights,
we know your
19 world championship wins, never losing a fight which wasn't a championship fight.
Yeah. But then you got Lecter and he doesn't want you around.
Hold on.
When's the last time you spoke to him?
Hold on. I got to tell you about the beatings. The two last beatings I took from this Carl Thompson.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what. This gives me the credibility to actually protect my son, no matter what he says, because he hasn't been through anything like what I've had to go through, and I want to protect him through that. He doesn't have the constitution I have. As they say, okay, hard men create easy times. Easy times creates parasites. People who just want instant gratification. You got to work. This is boxing. Mm-hmm. It's modern day gladiating.
Chris, I get what you're saying.
This is where you lose your life.
This sounds harsh on you.
Oh no!
But hang on, Chris.
This is the harsh I've lived.
But Chris, it seems like Chris Jr., your son, doesn't want to listen to you,
and so he has to feel. That's it. He has to feel. If you won't listen, then life will teach you what it taught many of the other fighters. Didn't teach me because I knew, because I was obedient to who was teaching me. Yeah, I was obedient. I listened. Do you understand? I trained in such a way where I was working out what this person can do to me. Okay, so how can I prevent that?
I wonder what you'd have done if you'd had you in your corner. You never had you in your corner. You with your personality,
let me tell
with
you
your
what,
reach, with your influence and your track record.
Let me tell you what. If I had me in my corner, how do you beat a man like me?
Interesting.
Yeah, how do you beat?
Put some headphones on like Steve Collins.
You have to take advice. It is arrogance when you shut your ears.
I agree.
Arrogance, and what arrogance gets you is what it got him in his last fight. Okay, you can't the caliber of Liam Smith doesn't beat Chris Eubank Jr. on my watch. I'm no longer there, so I don't know anymore. Now, in terms of Junior and what he does, I don't know.
I got to pull you on this.
Caliber
of Liam Smith.
The caliber of Liam Smith.
What, a 2-time world champion? Chris hasn't won a world championship. Why would you say the caliber? You might say the size, but why the caliber?
The caliber. I'll have to tell you why then.
Go on then.
Okay, because I would put it to you like this. Junior on my watch is not supposed to lose to a Liam Smith. On my watch. On the watch of these PE teachers, yeah, anything can happen. and anything did. Now,
Did he lose to Billy Joe Saunders on your watch?
you know, yes. Yes, he did.
Did he lose to George Groves on your watch?
Yes. But if you don't listen, you're going to feel.
Oh, so now he's not listening when you're winning. He can't win.
He
He
has never.
can't win now, can he?
hasn't. Sorry, he has never listened.
Make your mind up, Chris. 1 minute.
No,
he has you in
I've
the
made up
corner.
my mind. You're just hearing it for the first time. He's
Okay.
never listened. Now you're gonna verify that through the people around him. Most certainly Ronnie Davis, who doesn't lie, who doesn't play games, who doesn't deal in lies. He's my son. I know what he is.
I know you know better than all of us.
My son could have been a tremendous fighter. He electrified me when watching him.
I
Again,
agree on that. But he hasn't
but
been, has he?
because he doesn't listen, and when you don't listen, okay, you have to feel. In Jamaica, in my mother's tongue, if you can't hear, you're gonna feel dreadlocks. Okay, I just said.
Chris, Simon here. I'm going to drop you right in
I
it.
know you are. Yeah.
Called Chris Jr. Well, I'll tell you what.
No, talk to me straight.
All right, no, listen. This was Simon on
You
your...
can't hurt my feelings.
No, listen.
You can't
This
just-
was Simon on your son.
Yeah.
Listen.
Chris Eubank Jr., for me, is a charlatan. I think he's a great media personality. I think he's one of the best people that talk to the media. He's got himself to being one of the most billable, bankable fighters in British boxing without actually winning anything. The tragedy for Chris Eubank is all that I've been saying all along, about noise and houses in Las Vegas and who he's going to fight and when he's going to fight for a world title are superseded by performances in the ring. At the level when we get to the point where you're fighting bona fide fighters that have won world titles, name them. Let's name them, shall we? Billy Joe Saunders, George Groves, Liam Smith. How did it get on for him? He lost them all.
He's a charlatan, is he?
You know, if in the world of honesty, how can I disagree with you? You're not talking to a man who's not anybody. You can't have friends in boxing.
So he's a charlatan, is he?
I guess my silence says it all. My silence says it. Truth is truth. This fellow is talking about, I said to Junior.
Him, it was him who was talking about it.
Me who said it.
Hold on. I said to Junior, you won the IBO championship of the world. Okay? Now everyone is dogging it and saying, oh, that's a title from a cornflake packet.
Yeah.
They said worse about the WBO. I explained to Junior, you have to tell the public, you don't know what I had to do to go through. You don't know what I had to go through to get this IBO championship. You're not in the world I'm in. So you can disrespect it, but I know what I've had to do. That's how I defended the WBO, which it turns out, the Nigel Benn fight, they say is the best fight ever seen since 1909. This is the British boxing news.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. But they always trashed the WBO. I said to Junior, fight for your championship. It's not physical fight. Fight in word. Tell them you don't know what I had to do for it, but he didn't do that. So the IBO still sits in that position of being trashed. Let me tell you this. The WBO, if it's responsible for being or for giving one of the best performances ever seen in the British boxing ring, so how then does Nigel Benn come out ahead of Michael Watson? So I'm on tour with Nigel Benn. I'm on tour with him. Okay, it's good. But it's shameful when you look at Michael Watson. Michael Watson beat him. Okay, he beat him. Clearly, he quit in that fight. In the second fight I had with him, he beat me. Almost to death. I nearly died that night, but how can I talk about me when he had 6 brain operations in the space of 12 hours?
Of course.
The point I'm making to you is this. How come Michael Watson isn't getting these plaudits? It shouldn't be Nigel Benn. I don't mind that he's getting it, but let's respect Michael Watson because he put in a performance of which no one has seen in a British ring.
Even in the commercial breaks, Chris Eubank Sr. has been with Simon and myself for the last hour. Simon, I think we need another hour, maybe another 2 hours, well into the afternoon. Chris, in the very short space of time we've got left, going to ask you a couple of things,
Please.
and we'll try and get through as much as we can.
Please.
Your own boxing career. What do you think you achieved? How do you look back in it? What is your legacy?
Michael Watson too. In a fight I couldn't win, I got up. There was no way I could win that fight. It wasn't about winning. It was just get up because it's the right thing to do. Are you a warrior? Because if you don't come into this business otherwise. That's why these fighters shouldn't be listening to these guys who are doing it for just money and social media. Look at me, I'm a trainer. No.
What defines legacy for you?
Honesty. You have to be honest. You have to be honest. When you're having it kicked out of you, when you feel you're losing your life, you've got to stay there and take that beating. Okay, that's the fighters I will produce.
Does Anthony Joshua have a legacy? Carl Froch says he doesn't have one.
I'm not going to get into that. Okay. No, I will get into that. Okay, so if at 13 fights, his promoter puts him into a world championship fight, he's destroyed him. He's destroyed him because he hasn't learned the trade. And you're going to come up against fighters like Ruiz, who's going to expose you. That's the fault of the promoter who is fast-tracking the fighter for money. Looking at his muscles, not at the content of his abilities. Come on, we only have a few minutes.
Quite a number of people are asking me to ask you this, and they're boxing fans. They've been engrossed and intrigued by what you've been saying this hour with Simon and myself. So Chris Jr. could well be listening to talkSPORT. He's a listener. Everyone's a listener of talkSPORT.
Yes, and so they should be.
If he's listening, and I'm sure he is, what do you want to say to him? Because I'm saddened by this letter that he wrote you. And you want to be involved. I know you do.
Hold on.
What do you want to say to Chris Jr.? Use that microphone to impart your message.
Listen. Humility means you retract the letter. And before you retract it, you show the public. The truth will set you free. I did not go missing. You sent me away. Now, when you sent me away, you gave me the ability to go and live my own life. I've been doing things, one of these things I've actually tried to get across to Nigel Benn and audiences, I say to them, I don't want to talk about what I did in the 1990s. You should find out what I used it to get to. I can teach you how to win, how to get what you want in life by being focused, just don't look outside of yourself. Just all you got to do is believe in yourself. This is that simple. And anything you choose, and I've chosen the vocations. Anything you choose, you can achieve in. That's what I do. Why can't people see this? How my son couldn't see it? Yes, my son, let me tell you. Yes, I would love that because he's my son. I can show you pictures when he was a baby on me. The point is this. Of course, I will accept anything he asks me, but you have to have the humility to ask.
I get it.
That's right.
I get
Dad
it.
is no longer chasing you.
Chris, the messages are too many to go into at this stage. We're out of time. I want to thank you on behalf of Simon and myself for joining us on this show. We get a massive following, not least in the world of boxing. You have many, many fans out there. That is evident this lunchtime. And thank you for speaking with such honesty to us this lunchtime.
Have I ever done anything but speak with honesty? That's why they say, oh, he's an oddball. I'm not an oddball. I am correct. Like I was saying to Piers on that show, I was doing everything right in school, protecting those kids who were being bullied or taken advantage of.
Thank you so much.
I was doing everything correct, not incorrectly, that's nothing to do with me. It is something to do with me, and it's something to do with you. All you have to do is look at the beacon that we were given. Queen Elizabeth II. The perfect beacon of how to behave. The Queen is what we are supposed to be. We were supposed to be fixated on the Queen and her behaviour.
Chris,
she said, I don't make laws. I can't bring you into battle, but I can give you my heart. I can give you my love. Look into your Queen. That's how I did what I did.
Chris Eubank Sr., we have to go. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being with us this lunchtime. We've been live on talkSPORT.
Jim White and Simon Jordan, Monday to Thursday morning, 10 till 1. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.